Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Planetarium show. My name is Jessica. I'm the director of the Planetarium, and with me tonight is one of our students who I will let say hi and introduce himself.
Hey, my name is Braden. I'm a music education student here at UMD.
All right, so for tonight, we are doing our constellation story time for the month of April. So we'll take a look at the stars and constellations that are up this month and tell you some of the stories behind them. Now, as always, if you have any questions throughout the show, you can leave them down in the comments below. Brayden is going to keep an eye on that for me and let me know as questions come up. But don't be worried if we don't get to your question right away. We will make sure to take time for them at the end of the show. All right.
We already have like three questions.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Start off. Can you name the zodiacs in order?
Absolutely not.
I also cannot. Why are we in the age of Pisces? Great question.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
When the Greeks set up the system in order to begin with, when the Greeks set up the system, the order began with which sign?
Also, have no idea.
I have no clue. I maybe we'll find out.
All right. So let me get everything switched over here and we will get started with our show. There we go. Okay. All right. So for our star show tonight, for anyone who is new to our virtual star shows, we use a program called Stellarium, which is a fantastic program that basically is a digital planetarium. You put in a date, time, and location, and it shows you what the sky looks like. Now, since the planetarium is located in Duluth, Minnesota, that is the sky that I have set. For anyone, as long as you're in the northern hemisphere, your sky is going to look very similar to what I show you here tonight. But if you're wanting a more exact depiction, you can always check out Stellarium for yourself. It is free, and there's a link to it in the video description. There's also a link to a website where you can print off your own star maps for this month, which is the same idea, but it's, printed on a piece of paper instead of digital. Okay, so we are finally in a point in the year where the sun is not already set by the time we do these star shows. We still have the sun up in the sky. We've also got the moon hanging out. It just rose up in the east not too long ago as we're heading into the full moon, which is going to happen on Saturday. The moon will rise later and later in the day. The full moon rises at sunset. And so, yeah, we'll keep seeing that happen. All right, so over here in the west, we have the sun. And we are going to just fast forward time a little bit until our sun sets. I'm always worried about going too fast and making people dizzy. So we're just going to let the sun set there in the west. The sun always rises in the east and sets in the west because of the Earth's rotation. Earth spins from west to east, so everything in the sky appears to rise in the east and set in the west. All right, let's actually go a little bit later into the night. We'll stop about there. So this is looking at about 9 o'clock tonight, once the sun is good and set. Okay, so we are going to start our kind of tour of the constellations over in the northern sky. There's a couple of reasons we always start our star shows in the north. And one of those is because a lot of the constellations we talk about in the north are up all year round. And so that makes a really good kind of foundation if you can find these constellations in the north. One, you're able to orient yourself and know which direction north is. But they these constellations can also be used to help you find other constellations in the night sky. So it's a great kind of starting point. All right. So over in the northeastern sky is the first set of stars we're going to look at. It's probably the most famous set of stars in the north, and it is, of course, these 7 stars here, which represent the Big Dipper. Now, the Big Dipper is actually not a constellation. It is an asterism. This means it's a smaller grouping of stars within a larger constellation. So the 7 stars of the Big Dipper are a part of the Greek constellation Ursa Major, or the Big Bear. I'm going to zoom out a little bit more because this one is pretty high in the sky this time of year. So in order to make a bear, we're going to have to add on some more stars. And so the handle of the dipper turns into the tail. And then here we have the back, ear, nose, chest, front legs, belly, and back legs. And that is our Big Bear. Now, our Big Bear and Big Dipper are not the only bears and dippers in the sky. We also have a Little Bear and a Little Dipper, which do consist of the same stars. Now, in order to find them, they can be a little tricky. So we can actually use the Big Dipper to help us. So once you find the Big Dipper in the sky, what you want to do is go to the front 2 stars in the cup of the Big Dipper. These are known as our pointer stars because when you connect them in a line, they point us to this star here. And this star is named Polaris, or the North Star. And a lot of people know or have heard that the North Star is important. Some people wrongly conclude that since it's important, it must be the brightest star in the sky. And that's not the case. I will show you the brightest star in the sky in a little bit. But the reason Polaris is so important is because it is the only star in the sky that currently does not move over the course of the night. So if we fast forward time again here, we can see all of the stars moving across the sky as the Earth spins, except for Polaris. It's not moving. And that's because our rotation axis is pointed right next to the star Polaris. So everything else spins around that. And this star, because it doesn't move, ended up becoming extremely important to early navigators, especially before, we had GPS and good maps and things like that. Because they knew if they could find the star, it was always in the same place, and so it would always point to the direction north. And of course, once you know north, you know your other directions. And so it was very important for that reason. All right, I'm going to quickly go back a little bit to where we were previously. I think we were at like 26.8 or 21.18 or something like that. Just so the sky's back to how we had seen it before. Okay, so let's keep going. I've talked about Polaris and the North Star. So again, we found the Big Dipper. We took those pointer stars in the front of the cup, which pointed us to Polaris, the North Star. This is the end of the handle of the Little Dipper. And so we have the handle and the cup. Now, you may notice that the stars in the Little Dipper are much dimmer than those in the Big Dipper, and that's why people struggle to find it. And of course, they get frustrated thinking that it's just them, and it's really not. You have to have very, very dark skies to be able to see all of the stars in the Little Dipper. Usually, all you'll be able to see is Polaris and these 2 stars in the front. That is our Little Dipper. Our Little Dipper is also our Little Bear. And so again, the handle is the tail. And this time the entire cup is the body of the bear. So we have kind of the back legs, front legs, body, and I guess head would be about there. And so that is our Big Bear and Little Bear in the sky. Now, I mentioned that these are particularly Greek constellations. And that's important to know because there are lots of other depictions of these stars in the sky from cultures all over the world. The Greeks weren't the only one to see pictures and make constellations and tell stories with them. As far as we can tell, pretty much all cultures did this. Now, one of the reasons the Greek constellations are so prevalent is because their information was written down and preserved and shared. And so it became widespread knowledge and adapted and adopted by lots of other cultures around the world. And so it kind of prevailed. But again, they're not the only ones, and there's no right or wrong to what you see in the sky. Now, to some cultures, they do actually acknowledge what we call the Big Bear or the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, and those are constellations to them. Although usually it's a wagon or a plow or something like that. So you'd have like a big wagon and a little wagon. There is bears sometimes in other cultures. So I believe it's the Wasco. See the 7 stars here as a bear and then 3 hunters chasing after the bear. But again, just lots of different depictions there of our constellations and stars in the night sky. Okay, one more in the north that I want to point out before we head over to another portion of the sky. We are going to go back to the Big Dipper, back to those pointer stars, and this time we are going to follow them past Polaris until we hit this big W in the sky. The W is kind of turned on its head right now, but this is the big W, which to the Greeks is the Queen Cassiopeia. Let me point right there. Okay. Now, Cassiopeia is in the sky because she was a horrible person. And it's kind of an interesting way of trying to depict Cassiopeia. Some people say that this isn't actually the queen herself, this is her crown. Most depictions, though, show this as her sitting in her throne, and we're kind of getting a side view. And so this would be her head. She'd be looking off this way. Her back, upper legs, lower legs, and big long clown feet. And that is the Greek Cassiopeia. My personal favorite, though, constellation for these stars is a Persian constellation, which sees these as the 2 humps on the back of a camel. And I just think that makes a lot more sense. Definitely a lot easier to picture that. And so I personally like that one. So we have our little camel here in the sky. All right. So I am going to turn us now over to the kind of southwest. We're not going to spend too much time over here because we actually have spent a lot of time looking at these constellations. These are, of course, the winter hexagon, so we've spent the past several months talking about them. And they are still up right now since we are in early spring. But you can see right after sunset, they are starting to get pretty low in the western horizon, so they're not going to be around for too terribly long. So I just want to quickly go over them, and then we'll turn back to the southeast and start looking at the spring constellations that are starting to become visible. So first off, the most famous of the winter hexagon is, of course, Orion the Hunter. Orion has 2 hunting dogs with him. We have the big dog and the little dog. Oops, there we go. It's not drawing because the word is longer than the constellation is. It's literally just these 2 stars. It's fantastic. I love it. Coming back to the big dog, I forgot to point out that the star Sirius is actually the brightest star in the nighttime sky, so not Polaris. Let's see, we have Taurus the bull. Then we have Auriga the charioteer. and the Gemini twins. So those are our winter hexagon. If you want to hear more about them, you can always go and check out one of the constellation story times from the previous months. You can find all of them up either in the video section of our Facebook page or over on our YouTube channel. All right, well, now it's time to start getting into some new constellations. And the first one we're going to start with is pretty high up in the southeastern sky right now. And what we're going to be looking for is Leo the Lion. Now, the trick that everyone always says to find Leo is to look for the backwards question mark. But see, there's a problem with that. If you don't really know when and where to look in the sky, there's a lot of stars, and you can make a couple of different backwards question marks with stars in the night sky. So let me give you a tip to help you find the correct backwards question mark. And it involves, yet again, our Big Dipper. So in the spring and into the summer, once you have found the Big Dipper here, you're actually going to take the cup of the Dipper and this star here to make sort of an arrow. And that arrow is going to point you to the correct backwards question mark. And so this is Leo the Lion. We have his head and kind of his mane coming off here. This is the star Regulus, which is the heart of the lion. And then he's kind of stretched out over this way. In fact, kind of tonight, the moon is right in Leo the Lion right now. Now, Leo the Lion represents a mythical creature called the Nemean lion. And he came up in the story of Hercules. So Hercules was set on this task. He had to do these 12 trials to try and win back favor because people were terrified of him. One of those tasks was to kill the Nemean lion. And this was thought of as an impossible task because people considered the Nemean lion to be unkillable, because he had this special skin that couldn't be pierced by any weapon. So arrows, spears, swords, anything like that, you couldn't use to kill the lion. Well, of course, Hercules has this great strength, so he didn't need any sort of piercing weapon. He just, frankly, strangled the lion. And was successful in killing him. And so the lion is up in the sky as kind of a representation of that trial and also an honor to this great beast. Funnily enough, when Hercules killed the Nemean lion, he decided to skin it and make a coat out of it. And that actually made people even more terrified of him because he was able to kill what they considered to be an unkillable creature. And so that made them even more terrified. So it didn't exactly go his way. All right, the next constellation that I want to show you is actually over here in between Leo and the Gemini twins. This constellation is a little bit harder to see because the stars are pretty faint. But right in between these two, you can kind of make out this almost we joke that it's like a flux capacitor shape. And this is Cancer the crab. And Cancer is actually in the Hercules trials as well. So one of the other trials that Hercules had to overcome was to defeat the Hydra. And the goddess Hera really wanted Hercules to fail because he was, a love child with Zeus, and that's a whole other part of the story. Anyway, in order to try and make sure that he failed, Hera sent this little crab to nip at his heels while he was fighting the Hydra to try and distract him so that the Hydra would best him. That didn't end up happening. It was really not even an annoyance because Hercules just kind of stepped on the crab and ended up killing it. And Hera felt sad, so she put the crab up in the sky as kind of a memoriam to him and the sacrifice that he made to try and best Hercules. All right. Now, turning over to more in the east, we can start to find some more spring constellations. Right after sunset, these are still pretty low in the sky, but as we get deeper and deeper into spring, these will be much higher in the sky right after sunset. So, what I'm going to actually point out next is a star, which is currently highlighted for us. It is the star Arcturus, but of course, we don't have these great labels on the stars in the real night sky. So the trick to finding Arcturus is again to use the Big Dipper. This time, we are going to use the handle of the dipper. And what we're going to do is we're going to follow the arc of that handle to this bright star, Arcturus. So we arc to Arcturus. Now, the star Arcturus actually has a fantastic story associated with it, which comes from I believe it's the Lumi Native American tribe, where they see the star Arcturus, they call it Coyotes Eyeball. So Coyote is always this mischievous character, always up to some sort of trouble. And what our story starts off with is Coyote coming across this group of pretty ladies that he really wants to impress. And what he decides to do to impress these ladies is to pluck out his eyeballs and start to juggle them. I know, I think it would be horrifying and not exactly impressive, but who knows what Coyote was thinking. So he's juggling his eyeballs. It's just such a weird sentence to say. He's juggling his eyeballs, and to try and seem more and more impressive, he keeps throwing them higher and higher and higher until eventually he throws one of them just a little bit too hard, and it ends up becoming stuck right here in the sky. And so that is Coyote's Eyeball. It's fantastic. I love it. So the star Arcturus is a part of the Greek constellation of Boötes. Now, Boötes is supposed to be the bear herder because he kind of follows the bears across the sky. I think it looks more like a kite or maybe an ice cream cone. But this is Boötes, the bear herder. And sitting just underneath Boötes is this backward C. And this is Corona Borealis, the northern crown. All right. I feel like I flew through a lot of these constellations, but that's pretty much the spring constellations that we can currently see. Again, as we get later into spring, we'll be able to see more and more of them up just after sunset. All right, so I think we will just end it a tad early there.
We do have a couple of like little factoids that were put in the chat and one question that I'm going to answer.
Okay.
So a question that was posed is why is cancer like used for the term cancer in the medical disease? And the reason for that I did a quick Google search is because the disease like seems to mimic like crab-like finger like spreading from like around the body. So the disease mimics like a crab. And then we have can you turn on the ecliptic, please? Which
Yep.
it's gonna be on your end.
Nope, that's equator. And
then we also have, what's your favorite constellation? This is from my mom. I'm a sucker for the Gemini twins.
We were were just talking about that.
Yeah. Yes. I like Gemini, the Gemini twins.
I think mine is Orion because it was the first constellation that I could ever find on my own. So it's just got a little special place in my heart because of that.
Mm.
Okay, so I've turned on the ecliptic as requested, and I'm sure they were asking for that for a particular reason. So I can talk about this. So the ecliptic represents the path that the sun appears to take over the course of the year, which is of course due to us orbiting around the sun, but from our vantage point, it looks like the sun is actually moving across the background stars. And so the ecliptic is that path. Now you'll notice that the ecliptic goes through or very close to Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo. A little bit later, it'll be Virgo. All of these that we know of as the zodiac constellations. And that's actually what the zodiac constellations represent. They are 12 constellations that lie along the ecliptic. Now, there are more than 12, but 12 were picked, I believe, to mimic the 12 months in the year. And this is where your astrological sign comes from. Your zodiac sign is technically your sun sign, and it's supposed to represent the zodiac constellation that the sun is in on the day you were born. Now, those charts are actually no longer accurate because those are based on dates of where the sun was in the sky several thousand years ago. And because of something called precession, that's actually changed. So, a couple thousand years ago, people born in August, their zodiac sign would have been Leo. But now that's progressed forward. I forget which direction it goes, but the sun isn't actually in Leo in August anymore. But just, yeah, that's where all of that comes from.
All right, and we got one more question, and that is there any way to see Mars 1001 outside of the planetarium? A person asked that I actually just broke their ankle and can't actually make it up to see it at the moment. So,
Oh no.
yeah.
So we are going to have that one through May. But unfortunately, we are not able to show it on stream or anything. We just don't have that license to be able to do that. Our license is only for 3 months of showing it in the planetarium. This is a very popular show, though, and I know it is found in lots of different planetariums. So if you have another one closer, you could check there. Otherwise, maybe by May or the end of May, things will be all better.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a limited short-term license that we got for this show. But I'm sorry to hear that, and I hope everything heals up quickly and not painfully.
Yeah, and it's just and then it's just some random
Some more facts.
And yeah.
All right. So I think let's take a few more minutes. Sorry, I'm looking down at my phone to see the comments and stuff.
Okay.
I think we'll take just a couple more minutes to see if there are any last questions coming in. In the meantime, I can tell you about our, it's not Astronomy Day anymore. That has come and passed. Our schedule for this upcoming week. So on Friday, we are doing a Journey Through the Solar System. And then Saturday, our children's show is Earth, Moon, and Sun. And our general public show is Mars 1001. Both of these Saturday shows are new. We premiered them last weekend at Astronomy Day, and we will be showing them on Saturday through May. So if you can't come this weekend, we will be showing them for several weeks. I thought I heard my cat. I did not. And if you want tickets, currently tickets are only purchased online, and you can find links to that in the video description. All right. I guess I also just want to say a big thank you to everyone who came out to
Yeah.
Astronomy Day.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, how it was your first kind of major event working with the
no,
planetarium.
it was cool. I mean, I loved Halloween. But no, yeah, it was really cool. It was just fun. That's the best way I can describe it. It was fun. I loved talking to all the people.
Mhm.
It was just a fun time.
It was also just really cool. I did hear from a few people who have been watching our streams. So actually seeing some faces just for the little viewer numbers
Yeah.
was really awesome to kind of, see the real people behind those numbers.
Also, tardigrades.
I
Also,
know.
tardigrades.
I
Yeah.
know. We had tardigrades.
It was
Oh,
really, 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 really funny.
which I think they're
And
still actually living in the planetarium right now.
good. I mean, they're our mascot, so
They are.
they're our mascot.
They are. I think we need to come up with a like tardigrade integrated into our logo for like a fun like t-shirts or something. I think that could be really awesome.
We could have we could make like a tardigrade constellation, like in the
Ooh. Okay, I think we need to chat with our resident graphic design student
yeah yeah.
and see about coming up with some ideas. I think that would just be really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Um. Oh, you're being asked. What did you do?
Oh,
This morning for Astronomy Day.
I ran a couple of I just ran a couple of different tables, and then I also helped with run some planetarium shows. That was about it. It wasn't like too much.
No.
Like we did like a fun little what's it called? Like a cross stitch type thing.
Yeah, yeah.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
Great music. I made it. Oh, really? That's actually really cool.
I'm sure he's gonna check that out.
Yeah, I'll look into that. That's pretty cool. I don't have any photos.
We do have pictures from the event.
Yeah.
We are currently going over them all because there are a lot of rules as far as what we can post and what we can share as associated with the official planetarium stuff. But as soon as we have the ones that we can share, I am going to post them to Facebook. Just make a little album of our event. So those are in the works, which I'm sure you've got to be in some of them.
Yeah, definitely. I saw Jenna take a couple of pictures of me, so
yeah,
I'm there. I'll be there.
Like our faces can be seen in pictures, but everyone else's can't. So we just have to go through and make sure that we're doing everything correctly.
Okay. President locked. That's really really cool though. Like,
Okay, all right. I think we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone so much for joining us. Next week's stream is going to be Ask an Astronomer, so we'll be here to answer your questions. So you got a week to come up with some questions for us. Maybe stump us. We'll see. I always issue that challenge, and then I feel like I'm going to regret issuing that challenge.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Have a wonderful night, everyone. And we hope to see you either in person or back here next week. Bye, everyone.
Take it easy.